Okay, so today we're going to continue solving one-step equations, and we're just going to build off the information that we used yesterday and introduce some new stuff yesterday with some geometry standards. So today we're going to look at 8EE, which is expressions and equations, 7A and 7B. We're going to focus on solving linear equations. We're not going to look at the pairs of equations today. We're just going to focus on solving linear equations with one variable and using rational numbers and coefficients. Okay, so we're focusing on 7 today. We'll build with B tomorrow and then keep going from there. But our objective is really simple. Your objective today is I will solve one-step equations using addition and subtraction property of equality. So we're really going to focus on just adding and subtracting today. Pause the recording, copy down your objective, and when you're ready, join me back, and we'll continue with the next slide. All right, so here, some key ideas, and I'm going to have you copy these down in a minute. First, I'm going to explain them to you, and I just want you to listen before you start writing. We're going to talk about addition and subtraction as inverse operations, and this is super important. When I talk about the inverse operation of something, I'm talking about the opposite. And the way we like to phrase it when we're looking at solving one-step equations is we like to say add the opposite. Opposite. And the opposite. And I'll show you what that means in a little bit. And I think we kind of touched on it yesterday when we were solving the sum of triangle problems. So addition property of equality in words says when we add the same number to each side of an equation, it produces an equivalent equation. The algebraic reference to it would be if A is equal to B, then A plus C is equal to B plus C, because A and B technically have the same value, and C on both sides has the same value, so they're going to be equivalent. The subtraction property of equality is just the opposite of this. If A is equal to B, then when we subtract C from A, it's going to be equal to the same difference of subtracting C from B. So if A is equal to B, then A is equal to C and B is equal to C. It's the same thing, except we're focusing on subtraction. Okay, go ahead and pause your video. Copy down this definition. Make sure you copy everything, and including the little remember thing here, and add the opposite. Make sure you have everything copied down in your notes. And I think this should be in your table of contents as solving equations using additive and subtraction, addition and subtraction property of equality. And I believe that would be number 12. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Hopefully you have this all copied down. If not, make sure you're pushing pause and getting it copied down. I'm going to go on to the next slide, and we're going to solve some of these problems together. I'm also going to have us do checks. As part of your classwork, you're going to have to check your solution on your answers, so I'm going to show you how to do that when we're solving for x. So here our first problem says x minus 7 equals negative 6. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my line down. Oh, that's a terrible line. I don't draw very well on this board, so I drew my line down there. And I'm going to look at this problem. It says x minus 7 is equal to negative 6. Now remember, I said we're going to add the opposite. So the inverse operation of negative 7 is going to be a positive 7. So what I do to one side of my equal sign, I also have to do to the other side of my equal sign. This becomes 0 and leaves me with my x. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down my x over here. Is going to be equal to, now I have a negative 7 and a positive 6. So if I use my column method over here, I know I'm going to get this answer right. I have a negative 6, and then my 7 is positive. So I'm going to cancel this out. I'm going to subtract 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. X is equal to 1. Now I want to check my solution. Okay, so here I did column method to solve this problem because I have some negative numbers now. And we've worked on this already. I used what we learned yesterday. And this is the additive or addition property of equality here. All right. So I'm going to take my original equation, and instead of x, it tells me that x is equal to 1. I'm going to put a 1 in here. So I'm going to rewrite my equation. My equation says x minus 7 equals negative 6. I'm going to rewrite it with 1 instead of x. So 1 minus 7 equals negative 6. And then I'm going to add these two numbers together. So using my column method, I have a positive 1 and a negative 7. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1 here. It's in the negative sign, so my answer is going to be negative 6 is equal to negative 6. Great, go ahead and copy that down and then write this problem here. Y is plus 3 plus 3.4 is going to be equal to 0.5. And then we'll solve this together and do the check. Push pause, make sure you have all of this copied down, copy down this equation, and then when you're ready, push play and we will solve it together. Okay, so this time we're solving for y. My problem says y plus 3.4 is equal to 0.5. My 3.4 is positive, so the inverse operation is, instead of adding, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to subtract 3.4 from both sides. Let's draw my line down here. Okay, so when I subtract this, it becomes 0. I'm going to bring down my y. Y is equal to the difference here. Now I have decimals and I have some negatives. Okay, so let's go ahead and do my column. 0.5 is going to be my positive, right? My negative is 3.4. I'm going to subtract 0.5 from this side. A 2, this becomes 14. 14 minus 5 is 9. Bring down my decimal. And this is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. So y is going to be equal to negative, right, because it's on the negative side, 2.9. Let's check our answer. Take your original equation. I have a negative 2.9 instead of y, plus 3.4, and it's going to be equal to 0.5. So let's go ahead and subtract 2.9 from 3.4. I'm actually combining, right? So I'm just moving it down here and combining my terms. I have to deduct, this becomes 14, right? 14 minus 9 is going to be 5. Bring down my decimal. 2 minus 2 is 0. So 0.5 is equal to 0.5, and my solution works. Pretty simple, right? And it's just building upon what we learned yesterday. We'll learn some more using multiplication, division tomorrow, also inverse operations. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. Pause. Copy this down. Make sure you have everything down. If you are making mistakes, highlight them. Check to see where you're making your mistakes so that you don't make them again. Mistakes are good because you learn from them. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide when you're ready, and we'll go from there. Beautiful. Here I have 3 problems. It says solve and check. I'm going to solve one with you, and you're going to solve the other 2. And I think I'm going to pick number 2 to solve because we have decimals. I know you guys aren't all that strong with decimals, so let's just go ahead and look at it. Okay. Here I have g minus 1.7 is equal to negative 0.9. Remember, I have to do the inverse operation. This is a negative, so I'm going to add 1.7 to both sides. Let's go ahead and draw my line down here. Okay, this becomes 0. I'm going to bring down my g is equal to. Now I have to add, okay. I have a negative and a positive. I'm just going to use my T-chart, my column method, I'm sorry. Let's say plus and negative. 0.9 is negative. 1.7 is positive. 0.9 is smaller, so we're going to subtract 0.9. I'm going to borrow 17. 17 minus 9 is 8. So 0.8, and it's on the positive side, so my answer is positive 0.8. Make sure you include that 0 before your decimal. 0 is a strong placeholder, and it's going to help you out in many situations. Let's do our check. I'm going to take my 0.8, going to subtract 1.7, and is it going to equal negative 0.9? Let's find out. So what I'm actually doing is adding, right, 0.8 to a negative 1.7, and is that going to equal negative 0.9? So we're going to go ahead and make it a subtraction, even though I know my answer is going to be negative, right? So I'm going to make this 0. This is 17. 17 minus 8 is going to be 9. Negative 0.9 is equal to negative 0.9. This is my check. My solution worked. There's my one-step equation, column method, and my check. Got it? Copy down 1 and 3, solve them, and tomorrow in class, I'm going to check your answers. That's it. Short one today.